So, welcome, friends, to Emmanuel Methodist Church. This is a new venture that we're trying. It's Wednesday for you as we post this, and we're just wondering about the lives of people in the life of our congregation. We thought it would be a good experience and encounter it in this time of lockdown just to share stories. And the leadership team thought, well, it's not really fair to ask everybody else. We'll start with some of our own. So welcome to Joan Booth, who's one of the members of the leadership team. I'm going to briefly interview Joan today about her experiences and about her faith. So welcome, Joan. Tell us just about yourself.
Well, I'm 62. I've been married to Chris for 39 years. We've actually been together for 44 years, which is forever. We've got 2 married children, and we've got 2 gorgeous grandchildren that I haven't seen for 10 weeks. Years ago, I started life as a nurse, and then I went into senior management and retired 8 years ago. Although I didn't really retire, I've been very busy since. I have got lots of interests. I sing in a choir, I do cake decorating, I garden, I do genealogy. I'm currently learning to play the piano. That's my newest hobby.
How's that going?
So it's going okay. It's better in lockdown because I have more time. Although in a way it's also harder in lockdown because I've got no excuses. So, you know, it's going all right. Yeah, I think my teacher will be pleased because obviously he's not seen me for 10 weeks. So there is a bit of improvement. But yeah, it's good for the brain.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else about me, Cameron?
Yeah, that'll do. And just tell us a little bit about your experience of lockdown, because it's nearly 10 weeks now. You know, for some people it's been really hard, for other people it's been easier, and I guess for the majority of us there's been some good bits and some not so good bits. Tell us about the joys of lockdown for you personally, and maybe also some of the difficulties as well. I realise that this is unique to you and everybody else will be going through different things.
Yeah. I think Chris and I are very lucky because I'm married to my best friend. So we do get on very, very well, and we are very different, and we do give each other a lot of space. So from that point of view, we have got very different interests, but we do a lot of things together as well. So we've really, really enjoyed the walking. We've been here in this part of Barnsley 10 years, and the lockdown has given us the time out of a busy life to spend 2 or 3 hours a day, every other day, walking. We also do quite a lot of running, both of us, separately, and I'm running on the other day, so we're probably both fitter now than we have been for quite a long time. Other joys are meeting friends and learning how to use Zoom, which I think that's been my lifeline because I'm a real people person, and I just could not have coped with just talking to Chris all day long. I do like to have at least one Zoom meeting a day, and I'm also Scrabbling on Zoom with the wife of an IT friend who has created Scrabble just for us to play together on Zoom, which has been amazing. So those have been the ups really. Gardening's been a blessing as well because I've had more time for it. The biggest difficulty for me in this lockdown was that on the 23rd of March, when everybody went into lockdown, I lost my mum. So that was really difficult because I'd prayed for that and I got an answer to prayer really. And my mum, I think, chose her time. I think she was 94 and she didn't really know what was going on, but she booked a day. The day was the day we all got locked down, and I didn't have to worry about her anymore. But then I spent the first 3 or 4 weeks of lockdown sorting out a very odd funeral, socially distanced funeral, and then sorting out things on my own. There were 3 executors, but I was nominated as the one to do everything because we couldn't meet. So I've had to make decisions with the other 2 remotely, or I've got boxes piled up all over the house waiting for them to come here to sort things out. So, but I got over that. If you get over it, I suppose I then started focusing on other things, and other disappointments over that time have been with the children really, because I've got 2 children that are self-employed. who have got fantastic businesses that they've both built up from scratch. My daughter's a wedding photographer and my son owns a music venue in Sheffield. So consequently both are now furloughed, and Nick particularly is responsible for staff as well. For Chris and I, watching that process of them worrying about their futures has been awful. And obviously not seeing the grandchildren that I normally see every week, and trying to work it out on Zoom with a 5-year-old is not easy. So they're the disappointments, really, yeah.
And what has sustained you, faith-wise, because we've not been able to meet in house groups or in worship or prayer meeting? What has sustained you personally in these long days?
I think I've had some bad years in my life, and this year is nothing as bad as what I've experienced before. And God has always been with me through the difficult times. So I guess my faith has been the main sustaining thing. Prayer, the friendship and fellowship of the leadership team, who are a very close, supportive team, who meet regularly and chat to each other during the week, has been very helpful. I've really enjoyed the weekly services. The prayer night that we had was really good as well. And I've been out of my comfort zone, really, because I've never really been an evangelical Christian, and yet now I find myself writing what is in effect a blog on a Monday morning on Facebook, and that has really been amazing, because when I finish one Monday I don't know what I'm going to talk about the next Monday, but by the time the next Monday comes I know what's coming, which has been quite revealing, really, which I think God is talking to me through that ministry, if you like. So yeah, that's what sustained me.
Good. And I suppose that's a bit like my world. Every week, I'm never quite sure what's going to happen and what I'm going to say the following world. So welcome to my world a little bit. It's good to hear that you've been sustained by some of the basics of faith, like prayer and support and friendship and God's intervention as well. I suspect around your mum's funeral time, feeling peace and feeling upheld in prayer. Is that right?
Definitely, wrapped in prayer, yes.
Right.
And the definite feeling that everybody in Emmanuel was praying for me was really important at that time, yeah.
Good. And just on a, let's just go beyond lockdown, because this is only a finite, small amount of time in terms of the life of your whole Christian faith. Where has that faith gone? How has it changed and developed and evolved? Just share a little bit, if you can, about your personal journey of faith from naught to now.
Yeah, okay. From naught. I grew up in a Christian family. I was the oldest of three. My mum was a Wesleyan Methodist and my dad was an Anglican. And we moved to the family home when I was about 8, the last family home. And I don't know why, but they both decided to go to separate churches. So mum went back to the Methodist church and dad went to the Anglican. And us 3 children did both. So I had an Anglican service on a Sunday morning where I was in the church choir, and a Methodist Sunday school on a Sunday afternoon, and quite often back at evensong with my dad in an evening. And that was our life, really. It revolved around church activities. When I was about 13 or 14, round about Pentecost, I went away for a weekend to Scargill, the Christian house. And over that weekend, I accepted Jesus as my saviour at a service that we had, and I can still remember all the detail. And I remember the biggest impression was that we had communion with proper bread, because I'd only ever had communion with a wafer at Anglican, and that we gave each other the bread, whereas in the Anglican it was very hierarchical and you wouldn't have ever done that at that time. So anyway, after that, I carried on going to church and met Chris through school, and then we both went off I went off nursing and he went to university, and for those years I wasn't as involved in church. I think I'd had quite a stoic, is that the right word, upbringing, and I was really enjoying the freedom of not being controlled by parents. And I didn't go off the rails or anything, but when I came back to Bristol, I went to church, but I didn't find another church during my training years. And then Chris and I got married at Burstall in the church there, and we moved to Teesside. And within probably a couple of weeks of moving in, the lady across had adopted me. And we both, I was into guiding. She invited me to do guides. And within a couple of weeks, I was part of her church. And that's happened to me all my life. People have signposted me back. So I've always been pulled back. We moved from Teesside, we moved again. By this time I was a very confident member of a church. I found another church. I joined it on my own. Nobody needed to tell me. I took Nick, who'd already been born, there with me. Within weeks I was starting a pram service, getting involved basically. And the rest is history. We left Teesside and moved to Thurgoland, where I again got very, very involved. But I also got involved at Thurgoland with work Christians. So it's only with hindsight, when you look back, that you realise God's put Christian friends in your path. And at one particular job that I had while we lived at Thurgoland, we had prayer breakfasts at the Primary Care Trust, and that was a gift, that was a blessing, that was lovely. We left Thurgoland 10 years ago, and we chose the house as well as the church, and I had already found Emmanuel on the website and was really interested in it because it was so different to the Anglican church, the rural Anglican church that I'd been going to. And we came here, and within a few months I was getting pulled into getting involved, and I wouldn't have probably stayed at Emmanuel but for the fact that a couple befriended me. Two couples befriended me, Jenny and Jeff Sawyer, and Maureen and, oh dear, I can't remember his name, but they don't come to our church anymore. But she cared for me so much that she dragged me into coffee every morning after the service and made me stay with her. And one particular day, she met me on the lane as she was leaving the church fair, and I was going up on my own. And she came back and kept me company, and then sat down and had another coffee with me. And by then I knew a lot of people, but it's people like Maureen that have always been around to keep me going, really. I think welcome is just so important in nurturing your faith, because that's how you see other people, isn't it? So where I am now, well, over the last few years at Emmanuel, I've got very involved in house group, which has been a big blessing. I've done the Methodist course, because of course I was officially an Anglican before I came here. And I did roots for quite a few years, and although I did enjoy it, it didn't ever feel like it was a natural fit for me, really. And reluctantly I decided when I got to 60 that perhaps it was time to think about other things. And my natural style through work was always in leadership positions, so when the opportunity came up I thought I'd go for it, and it's going all right. I think my faith at the moment is very strong. I think it's probably the strongest it's been, whether that's got the lockdown effect as well, and I've had more time to reflect and think, perhaps. Yeah, it's been a bedrock throughout my life, and although I have had moments when I have strayed, I have always been brought back.
Okay, thank you. And maybe some people listening here might not be in the same place as you, because of lockdown. They might feel, or because of circumstances previously, that their faith is more on the bottom of the trajectory rather than the top. And if you had to sort of witness and share to somebody who is struggling with their faith at the moment, to say what are the things that helped you in the hard times of your life, what sort of things would you be signposting them to or suggesting them?
Prayer, definitely. Whenever I've had bad times in my life, I've prayed. I usually read a daily Bible reading as well that's on my app every day, and it is amazing how often that daily message is for me, even though it can't possibly be for me, can it, because it's going to millions, but it quite often has got something to tell me about the way I'm living my life. I would tell them that even when it's very, very hard, God sends help, and he never makes anything too difficult that we can't cope with. I lost my brother, that was my annus horribilis, to a suicide, and just before he died I'd started a new job, and the first day in the kitchen of the new job, I met a lady who is a Christian, and she had sustained me through the horrible year that I had, and I think God put her there, and she's still a friend all these years later. And that seems to me that that's what happens. God sends people to be with you at the right time, and you just have to realise that they're there and that's what they're doing for you. Yeah.
I know in the past you've talked to me about angels, and I think, well, I know from your story that you've certainly talked about an incident where you felt an angel guided you. But I think what you're saying is to people, look for the angels around you who may be in human form, are you?
I am, yes. I think, yeah, there are people there who are waiting, or who God is nudging to be in a certain situation. I was once in church, for instance, and got talking to somebody over coffee, and they were very, very upset. And this massive feeling overcame me, and I grabbed another Christian, and together we took this person aside and prayed for them. What made me do that, I don't know, but it just did. And that is what happens, I think, when God knows you're struggling. He always sends a lifeline in some form, and sometimes good comes out. Well, always, in my experience, you can find blessings after the event. So, for instance, the example of my brother, we weren't very close, and our families weren't very close. The event of his death made that those 6 grandchildren, even now, 15 years on, are all really good friends, or look out for each other, or WhatsApp each other, keep in touch. It's made us a much stronger family, even though it was such a tragedy. So I think you've always got to look for something good out of bad, I would say.
That's great. And because this whole sort of experience of lockdown is teaching us much about different people, isn't it? And I'm aware that this Sunday is Pentecost Sunday, the day when we celebrate the gift of the Holy Spirit. And it seems to me that it's the Holy Spirit that nudges us. I love that word that you use, nudges, and nudges us to be then the angels for other people, as well as to be the recipients of those who want to minister to us.
Yeah, I totally agree.
If you had to summarize to somebody who wasn't in the Christian faith, what you think the nub, the essence of the Christian faith is, and I'll be generous and give you 1 minute, what would you say?
The essence for me is believing that you're chosen by God in the first place. That everything you've ever done wrong in your life has been forgiven and wiped clean by the fact that Jesus died on the cross for me, and that the only way to live my life is by following Jesus.
That was 20 seconds. That's brilliant.
There's no right or wrong answer, is there? It's, it's personal perspective.
Succinctness is obviously a gift of yours. And if you had to share with somebody then, maybe this same person, what you felt the Christian faith meant to you personally, as a testimony, as a witness, what would be the thing that you would say to that question?
I probably quote my favourite Bible verse, which is Isaiah 49:16, which is, "I have written your name on the palm of my hand." And that is profound for me because it's the idea that it's etched on the palm of his hand, so it'll never disappear. Even if I disappear, it'll always be there. I'll never be forgotten, that I'm totally loved. That's the best example I can think of. My faith for me is the foundation. It's the foundation that I live my life with. It's never left me, even when I have not been faithful to God. I've always had the faith. It's just that I've not lived out the life always as much as I should have done.
Thank you, because sometimes it's us that do the moving rather than God, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And my final question in my wondering with you this Wednesday is, hopes do you have as a Christian for the future? Maybe, I don't mean just beyond lockdown, but future as well, perhaps.
I suppose there's several different strands really. For Emmanuel, I hope that we don't go back to how we were. I hope that we become bigger than what we were, braver than what we were, that the new ways of worshipping and the new styles that we're using will be integrated into the next stage of the way that we go. I'd like there to be a revival in Barnsley. I'd like the people that are watching this on Facebook to actually come and meet us in person and, you know, maybe do an alpha course, maybe come and commit their lives as we have done, and see that there is a better way, really. I think we need to react to people where they are, and I think we need to do a lot more outreach. So I think Emmanuel Church is brilliant, but there's lots more that we could do out in the community, in parks or wherever we can do socially distanced in the immediate future. I hope that individually we'll all continue to be kind. Chris and I have met most of our neighbours now, which seems ridiculous when we've lived here 10 years, but this has been the opportunity for doing it. We're physically helping a couple of neighbours, which is great. I hope people will not get so wrapped up in their own busy lives that they can't put other people first. And I hope that we'll start to think about the resources that we're using, and that this planet that's now gone back to being blue and green will perhaps stay blue and green. It's made me think about flying. It's made us feel guilty if we just take the car out once a fortnight to go shopping. It's made us question why we do certain things, and I hope that we all start to respect the planet more and the earth more. And then I think for me personally, there's been a lot of people in my life that have signposted me, that have nurtured me, that have made me welcome, that have kept me in a church when maybe I wouldn't have stayed in the church. And I think I'd just like to be that person.
For others?
For others, yeah.
Great. It's been lovely to chat with you, and I hope that this has been a means of evangelism in a new way to all the people that are connected with us on Facebook. I hope it's an opportunity for us as a church to connect with our membership as well, so that people just know each other's stories a bit more, because stories are really important. Stories are unique, and stories are who we are, and by our stories God connects with us and we connect with other people. So I think it's been a great first taster for me just to hear your story, and thank you for that, and thank you for your honesty. We look forward to other people who are going to share their stories. Certainly Joan hinted at a couple of things that we as a church are looking at, maybe Alpha Online, and if you're interested in joining us online, then just Facebook message me, or send me an email, or ring me. My contact details are on the website if you haven't got it. We are thinking about doing that, and we're also this week doing something in terms of bunting in the community. So we've just set up today some bunting outside the church, and we're inviting the community to raise their hands in prayer for the people that are on their hearts. And I know people like Joan probably will be connecting with that, and maybe you can tell other people about that too, and join in the endeavour that we think is really important about prayer, and about praying for our world and for the people that we know. So thank you, Joan, for joining us. Bless you as you continue to strengthen in your faith, and thank you for sharing with us this afternoon. God bless.